Right, we are live. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Kiwi Lads channel. We are here for the semi-final of the Singapore Sevens. Fiji taking on New Zealand. Now, when these two sides play off, it is always must-see. Physicality, the forefront, some really speedy, impressive tries, and this one could go down to the wire. Both teams finding their form as this competition wears on. New Zealand, they did suffer a loss in the first round to France, who are also a part of the semi-finals. They are on the other side of the draw, going head-to-head up against the Blitzboks in the very near future. But looking through at the starting lineups for this contest, I will also mention while I am reading off these, the second half of the women's semi-final is getting underway between New Zealand and USA. It's once again looking like a New Zealand versus Australia final. But for the men, could be looking very different for Fiji. In the starting lineup, Josefa Talatholo, Sevu Mothanothangi, Jeremiah Matana, Ioane Temba, Taria Vailawa, Vuiviwa Nadovalo, and also George Balsi. Now, anyone who's been following this Fijian Sevens side closely will know that is the exact same lineup as they have been starting in the earlier stages of the competition. Quite a few changes in their last match up against South Africa, where they were giving a few players a bit of a rest, having a bit less game time as they made their way off of the bench, but it is a very strong starting lineup. They started the competition on a high, beating Great Britain with a hat-trick from Vuiviwa Nadovalo. He currently has got the most tries out of any man on the Seven circuit. He'll continue to score them throughout the competition as well. Looking through at New Zealand's starting lineup, a couple rushes in the starting side, Rob Rush as well as Brady Rush. Now, Rob Rush got himself a double in the most recent game up against the Australians. Kitio Nevai, Tony Nashu, the captain, Regan Weir, Akulia Rokalisoa, and Frank Vainuku, the last man in the starting team. So you'd have to argue that these are looking like two of the strongest sides that these two teams can put out there, which means it's going to be a great game of Rugby Sevens when it does take place. Currently, Fiji, they are undefeated at this stage of the competition, beating Great Britain, like I mentioned, in the first round, 22 points to 19. Their second game up against Spain, winning at 28 points to 7, and then most recently winning up against South Africa in golden point time, 24 points to 19. Now, the winner of that contest got New Zealand, the loser got France, so there wasn't really an easy way of going through this competition, but once again, it just adds more excitement into the playoff games. Looking through at the chat, we have got Mr. Fiji Bhatti is here in the comments. Also, hi everybody, says Bruce Brandon is here. It's another Australia versus women's, New Zealand and the women's. Yep, it is once again looking like a Trans-Tasman final between New Zealand and Australia. It's been the battle many times over throughout the Seven circuit in the last 12 months. I don't think this will be the last time that we do see it either. And it's either New Zealand and Aussie final again. And also Bolivaraka and Kia ora. It's going to be a good game. Good luck to both teams, says Stone Vatu. Yeah, I think that one thing's guaranteed when these two sides take to the field. There's going to be some huge hits. There's going to be some brilliant highlight reel tries. And there's going to be a lot of mutual respect between the two sides. At the end of the day, they are two of the most decorated sides on the World Sevens circuit. They have had battles over the decades. And this one, hopefully, will be no different. At least the finals aren't at stupid o'clock. That is true for us here in New Zealand, just after midnight, which some would say is a bit of a rough time to be able to watch a game, but it is better than those 5 a.m. start times that we've seen when they are up north. We have got Go Fiji Go, says Amelia, and Bullet Go Fiji, says Amanasi there, and Happy New Year to you as well. And all the best, Fiji, says Ram Chitty. Of course, anyone who hasn't already, do let me know your score predictions for this contest. I will mention this game is kicking off in only around probably 7 minutes time. We're a little bit early, but there was plenty to talk about when it comes to these two sides in terms of what is next, just around the corner as well. For the New Zealanders, they started off with a loss up against the French, losing that first contest 19 points to 12. It was a frustrating type of game for New Zealand. They conceded first. They scored first. They then conceded 3 tries, and then they scored the last-minute try up against the French as well. In their second game, they scored an even more so last-minute try. We're talking 3 seconds left on the clock when they crossed that line, 26 points to 20. I also just recently saw that Argentina lost to Spain in the 7th place semi-finals, which means that they have gone throughout their whole tournament, I believe, without a single victory, which is something that is so unheard of for this Los Pumas side. Their third match for the New Zealanders was up against Australia, 29 points to 10, a comfortable win for New Zealand in the end. They've had 9 try scorers throughout this competition thus far, a double for Akulia Rokalisoa and 2 for Rob Rush. The Fijians, they have had 3 individuals getting 3 tries throughout the competition. Vuiviwa Nadovalo, Tario Vailawa, and then also Mr. Impact. Off the bench, it is Bongi Nasoko, who has scored in every single game that he has played thus far. And it's his debut tournament, so if that continues, that means he will score here and he'll continue scoring throughout the rest of his career, every single match. Of course, easier said than done, but he certainly looks like a talented prospect for this Fijian side. Good afternoon, says Katzenel. Of course, Argentina are horrible, says Katzenel. I mean, they went from winning the tournament last year, though, or at least winning the overall standings in terms of points. There is still time remaining too. Of course, Perth Sevens taking place next week. The week after that, it is the Nairobi Sevens. That is for Division 2, involving sides like Kenya and Canada. We're going to be covering those matches on the channel as well. Currently 3 minutes remaining in New Zealand's match up against the USA. You'd have to say USA had their big game up against the Australians in their group stage, because currently the way that it sits, New Zealand are winning 37-0 up against the US. Bulavanaka from Melbourne says, Akta, welcome in. Hope you are doing extremely well. And I'm thoroughly excited for this game. I do hope that it's split by a very thin margin. My score prediction that I gave on my preview was 26-19. I went in favour of Fiji purely because of the fact that they've had a couple close games, but they've also found a way to win them. They've started this competition well, and they've just got so much X factor across the side. Appreciate what you do. Keep going, bro, says Akash. And yeah, we've got plenty more coming up in the near future. The Perth Sevens next week. Also, the final and the bronze final will be covered on the channel. Looking at what time that will be. Bronze final is at 11:33 p.m. New Zealand time, which is also the time in Fiji. And then at 12:05, the women's final. And 12:41 will be the men's final between one of these two sides and South Africa or France. Fiji will win. Tosafiti says on there. Yeah, the most concerning thing I would say for the Fijians is probably discipline. We've seen a couple times throughout this competition that they can get in a little bit of a rut of giving away penalties in quick succession. Now, New Zealand, I believe they've also given away their fair share of penalties throughout this comp, and also at times have lacked a little bit of defence, which just once again means that this chess match between these two sides should be even closer and even more must-see. Hi, Hamish, sitting in class between lessons. Thanks for bringing the commentary to us day and night, says Josh. No worries at all. And yeah, it is greatly appreciate you popping in. Be able to watch this one. It is a big one. South Africa versus France is happening just around the corner too. That will be covered on the channel straight after this game ends. Currently, New Zealand, they have got 50 seconds remaining in their women's semi-final up against the USA, and they have scored again to bring up 40-plus points in that game. My score is 21-17. Wait, you said Fiji. Oh, man, that means they will lose it already happening, says Brandon. Yeah, I've been known to put a little bit of a commentator's curse on sides. When I do back a side to win in my preview, they often do lose. Now, that was not any sort of reverse psychology. I thoroughly think that Fiji have a great chance here, but at the same time, New Zealand, I believe that they are the hardest side in the semi-final to be facing. When it came to South Africa and Fiji, I don't think that losing that game of the group stage for the Blitzbox is actually going to hurt them that badly, because I think they'll beat France. And then from there, this game for me is a little bit closer to 50-50. So I don't know. I think I would have preferred to play France if I was either of Fiji or South Africa, just because you never know what you're going to get from New Zealand. There's enough veterans in the team to be able to get something moving. And Akulia Rokali, so of course that man, he has done more air running out there on the field, doing a little bit of the shuffling, trying to throw off the defence than anyone else in this competition thus far. And 144 people watching, only 19 likes. Come on, Rugby family, push the like, says Joss. And anyone who is new, of course, also be sure to hit that subscribe button. And yikes, come on, Fiji, says Brandon in there as well. I will mention the women's Fiji side. They are playing off the 5th place in a game up against France just around the corner, which could also be the 3rd place or the final on the men's side. And when this game out, guys, says Farhan, this game is going to be kicking off in about 3 minutes' time. They are just waiting for New Zealand versus USA to end, which is the women's second semi-final. It's looking like Australia versus New Zealand will be the final for the women yet again. That is the knock-on at the end of that game. New Zealand progress through to the next stage, which now means they will clear the field. They will bring Fiji and New Zealand out there, and then we've got 14 minutes of all-out action between the two sides. Now, I will mention the last couple of meetings between these sides have been quite interesting. The most recent time was in December. That was in 2025, and 35 points to 5, the win for the Fijians. So a pretty one-sided affair in that regard. And then the time before that these two sides met, it was actually in the Dubai Sevens. That was in a semi-final as well. and New Zealand won it 24 points to 21. So what that tells us is from the recent fixtures, when the playoff situation is on the line, New Zealand do well up against the Fijians, whereas when it's in the group stage, that is when we've seen Fiji really find their rhythm. And it has happened a few times where Fiji do peak during the group stage, and then that first playoff game, sometimes they come in with a little bit of rust. And that's what New Zealand have to rely on. Because I can tell you right now, if Fiji aren't rusty in this game, and they play as well as they physically can, this game may not even be close. And Fiji might run away with it. The people listening to your commentary are about as attentive as some of the students that I teach. No increase in likes or subs, sorry mate, I tried, says Joss. And also, I don't know how you live stream what. I thought there was live stream limit, says Brandon. I think it depends on what you do. I know that some broadcasting software have limits of how many you can do, but they are just showing there the women's draw. New Zealand versus New Zealand versus Australia will be the final. Canada versus USA, that will be the bronze final. TAB should have odds for the next sevens. The odds of women final not being New Zealand versus Oz. You'd assume that the odds will be relatively high in that regard, as it has happened so often, but the first semi-final match just about to take place. Once again, we will read through the starting lineups for these two sides. First off, for Fiji, Josepha Talafolo, huge amount of experience and huge amount of height. Work in the line-out seems to be going very well for that man throughout the competition as well. Sevu Motunothangi, Jeremiah Matana, the captain, Ioane Tiba, Tario Vailawa, he has scored 3 tries throughout this competition thus far. Vuiviwa Nadovalo, he scored 3 tries in one game. That was up against Great Britain, but those are the only tries that man has scored. He is such an impact player, and he could easily get the double here. In fact, in my preview, when I said out of everyone in this game, who would be most likely to score 2 tries? First name that came to mind was Vuiviwa Nadovalo. George Balsi, he is the last man in this Fijian side, and he's really grown into his role, which I do feel will definitely benefit him heading into this contest. He's shown some maturity in the way that he plays. Just has to keep that penalty count as low as possible. In the starting lineup for New Zealand, it is Rob Rush, Kitio Nevai, Tony Nashu, Regan Weir, Brady Rush, Akulia Rokalisoa, and Frank Vainuku. A good mix of power, experience, and pace for the Kiwis heading into this matchup, and also some X-Factor off the bench with Sophie Natoa Tipo, and also they have got Kelly Lasanga, who scored that last-minute try in the last close game for the Kiwis. But we're about to get ready to go, ladies and gentlemen, for the semi-final of the Singapore Sevens. Tario Vailawa has ball in hand. Who will be advancing to the final to face either South Africa or the French? We're underway now in this fixture. It has kicked off just the 10 metres, and it goes into the hands of Regan Weir. Once again, I am on the manual scoreboard today, so I will try my absolute best to make sure that it is updating almost as smoothly as physically possible. There we go. Now the ball is in the hands of the Fijians, or at least it was for a second. They ripped the ball off New Zealand on the ground, so the penalty awarded to the New Zealanders early, just inside of their own half. Morning 8 to come on the Kiwis, says Jacques there. And come on Fiji, says Iceman, new year, new twist, says Gideon. And may the best team win, says Desmond. Yeah, these two sides have had such a great back and forth. They're just showing there. Fiji have won 58% of their semi-finals throughout their entire existence. New Zealand have won over 68% of their semi-finals. The coach of this Fijian side looking nervous at the moment, as they would be for the early stages. New Zealand 40 metres out from Fiji's line with the line out in the hands of Akulia Rokalisoa, uncontested by Fiji, straight to Rob Rush's hands. Looping it around Akulia Rokalisoa, skip pass off to the right, was a very flat one out wide to Kitio Nevai. Tried to get the fend on the inside and get the offload away to Rob Rush. He's close to the sideline, pumping the legs though. The big man, one of the biggest in this New Zealand side, off to the left now, inside of Fiji's 22. Skip passes on for Akulia Rokalisoa. He goes out to Frank Vainuku, cuts back in, big bump off, gets through Balsi and scores the first try of the semi-final. New Zealand have come to play at the start of the day, and Frank Vainuku just using his power to bump through George Balsi, who he had on his back. Just couldn't quite slow him down. Viva la Kiwi, says Sock in there, but it's a great step sideways and a huge bump off on Balsi initially. Did wrap his arm around that ball trying to stop Frank Vainuku, but within a couple of metres of the try line, always going to be hard to drag that man down. And he scores the first try of the contest. A hard kick from Akuria Rokalisoa, but he's brought it round nicely and it's gone over 7-0 now for New Zealand. A great start, but this is what happened in their game up against the French. They were the first to score and then they lost that game. So it is far from over. We've seen some brilliant Fijian comebacks in the past. Is this going to be another one? Ioane Temba goes on the short side. Just underestimated how close he was to the touchline though, and the foot does graze the white line. Gives New Zealand the line-out throw from inside of Fiji's 22. Tosa Fiji, says Nasili there. But now this is another big attacking opportunity for the New Zealanders. Nervous coach on the sidelines, Scott Gregory trying to hide his nervousness. He will make his way onto the field a bit later on in this match as well. Now ready to throw this ball in. Akulia Rokalisoa. This looks like Fiji may try and contest for this one. Go up to the front though. Again, it is taken by Rob Rush. Into the midfield. Finds his brother Brady. Gets through one. Can't quite get his offload away. Seven Mothanothangi making the tackle. Fiji trying to get the steal and the breakdown. Referee tells them to get out of it. Now Akulia Rokalisoa. Away to the left-hand side. Another fend and another another offload from Tony Nashu. Bit of a loose ball picked up from New Zealand out wide. 22 metres from the line. Tony Nashu. Now Vainuku, he's already scored one try. He gets close to another, tries to reach out, but will be dragged down 2 minutes short of the try line. Balsi was in off his feet. That was cynical too. And the player who I said had to watch his discipline has just got himself yellow carded in one of the most important games of the Singapore Sevens competition. Balsi in off the feet. New Zealand decide to take it quickly and they go over. Brady Rush gets the second of the match and now Fiji down by 12. In this first half. Let's go flying New Zealanders. Toso, New Zealand, Toso. Says Johnny there. Just a try for Brady Rush now. Just a big fend from Frank Vainuku. I mentioned about how up till this stage of the competition, New Zealand have had 9 different try scorers. And the most that anyone has scored in this competition for the Kiwis is 2. So they have been doing very well, keeping everyone in the game and having so many dangerous options of getting over the line. There's a tackle made by Mothanothangi, but again, New Zealand just a little bit too close to that try line to be able to drag him down and push him backwards. Kick has gone over. First 5 minutes is about as good as it could have been for New Zealand at the start of this game. But once again, a side like Fiji, you can never trust that they won't come back. That one hasn't gone the 10 metres from New Zealand, so that is going to give Fiji the opportunity on the halfway line. Keep it up, New Zealand, says Jasmine. And whoop whoop, says Jacques. And there as well, George Balsi, he is going to be off the field for another 50 seconds. Fiji now, they get themselves their second carry of the whole contest. New Zealand have had 14 passes, 8 carries. Fiji have touched the ball once throughout this first 5 minutes. It just shows that New Zealand, once again, the tactic when you play Fiji is don't let Fiji touch the ball. And we may just about see why here with Fiji now on attack. Passing out wide to Josefa Talatholo. Rush defence. Missed tackle from Kitiona Vai. Offload now. Vuiviwa Nadovalo. Cutting back in. Trying to go around. New Zealand's defence. Gives it off to Tario Vailawa. Skip pass on the outside. Sevo Mothanothangi. He gets the big legs pumping. Cuts back on the inside. Tries to bump off Brady Rush. But the 2 Rush brothers working together. Wants the turnover. Can't quite get it. Josefa Talatholo. Again going off to the right hand side. Tario Vailawa. Puts it on one more, starting to use a little bit more of that width of the field. Jeremiah Matana loop around play for Vuiviwa, another Valo, another offload. Matana again, offloading back across to Rio Vailawa. Quick step and feed from him. Rob Rush tries to rush up, but he can't quite get the tackle. Now gone through Josefa Talatholo. Scores it between the posts. Like I said, don't let Fiji touch the ball or this is what happens. They score tries for fun. It's between the posts too. Makes it a nice, easy conversion for the kicker. But that was about a minute or so of just pure Fijian attack. Every time that New Zealand tried to shut it down, Fiji found the offload. They got that next pass away and Josefa Talatholo, the experienced veteran, puts it between the posts to give the Fijians their first. Viva la Fiji, says Sockdown. Trictone says patient. And try, let's go Fiji. And I feel like your name is the perfect example for the Fijians here, the patience of the way that they didn't try and rush that move. I'm trying not to use like puns on the name Rush, but there are 2 rushes in the New Zealand team. But yeah, they weren't rushing to try and get that one moving. They just waited and kind of bode their time a little bit. But now up to the halfway line, Regan Ware passes off to New Zealand. Way to the left-hand side. Now Tony Nashu goes to Kulia Rokalisawa. Rush defence from Fiji, pushing them backwards again. Frank Vainuku, New Zealand losing 30 metres there in this attacking play. You're still calling an attack if it's going backwards. Kitiona Vai now getting in the breakdown and winning the penalty there for George Balsey. That was a risk, seeing as that man had already received a yellow card, but he decided to take it on. Now Fiji, the pace being shown there through Vuiviwa Natovalo. That was pretty late from Brady Rush in the tackle attempt, but that will now make the score heading into halftime looking like 14 all in this semi-final. Anyone who underestimated whether or not this game was going to be back and forth between these two teams is now seeing exactly what they can do when they go head-to-head. It's always fireworks on the Seven circuit, and the pace of Vuiviwa Natovalo gets try number 4 for him. The call was too quick from the referee, as in like when he scored it, I assume you're saying. And Yahoo says Rashid, and Oza, let's go Fiji, says Patton there. And don't spoil my morning in Cape Town H, says Jacques. Although the good news is South Africa are in action just around the corner. They are going head-to-head with France, and they missed the kick. Says Jasmine in there. Although on the scoreboard, they've got it as 14-14 on the actual coverage. No, the penalty call. Says Kiwi Rob and Oisol. Fijiana scored 2 tries in 30 seconds, says Johnny Blaze. It just shows you how quickly the Sevens matchup and the landscape of a Sevens match can change. You know, New Zealand with 2 minutes remaining had given the Fijians 1 carry in that whole first half. And then from there, Fiji have had 2 minutes of dominant rugby sevens where they've been all over New Zealand, and now at half-time, they go into the second half with that momentum. So anything can happen now in the next 7 minutes. But the winner of this contest will face the winner of France versus South Africa. That one is just around the corner from taking place. If you haven't already, of course, let me know who you think will win this contest, and also who you want to win this game and who you would prefer for them to play in the final. Bring that ass here, New Zealand, says Patient. And Lakiwi says Sok in there, but second half just about to get underway in this fixture. Both sides have stacked their starting lineups, but some pretty handy players to make their way off the bench. I'll mention it once again. The youngster on debut in this competition, Nathani Bongina Soko. He has scored in every single game that he has made his way onto the field for. 3 from 3. And this game now, if he makes his way out there and scores a try, that could be the difference between Fiji making it through to this next stage of the competition, the final, or perhaps playing for bronze up against the loser of the box versus France. But New Zealand, they've got Safai Natoa Tipo. He's had a solid enough tournament. Lasanga has also scored a try for the Kiwis. I'll mention no Manson off the bench here for New Zealand. Fletcher Morgan and Riley Williams, the other options that they've got. And Tosa Vititoso. And also Go Fiji, says Rashid. And Go Fiji, go, says Sunia. And Kiwis in the box all day long, says Jacques. And AB Sevens need more Fijian players and coaches. Currently one's not enough. Too close for comfort for New Zealand. Says Mr. Fiji Buddy, but this one's going to be kicked off now by the New Zealanders. Second half underway in the semi-final. Nicely taken by Seville Muthanothangi. And a knock-on the ground, mistake made by the big Fijian. Go the Kiwi, says Johan Goosen. And Tosaviti says Tavi Kithi. Hopefully I've said that correctly. Now on the halfway line, New Zealand with the Kulia Rokalisawa. It is not unheard of for New Zealand to score a try in the closing seconds of a game. They did it up against Argentina in match number 2, which helped secure their spot through to the semi-finals. Tony Nashu tries to step. New Zealand still stuck within their own half. But a patient build-up could be on the cards here. Rob Rush from inside of the 22. 2-man tackle, 1 low from Talatholo. And also Vuiviwa Natovalo. Bulla Fiji, Tosa Fiji, Toso. Really needs to look at Fiji being overside. I assume that's offside. Now close to the sideline there for Fiji, managing to get their ball back for half a second. Now it's going to be claimed by a Kulia Rokali, so it's an ugly breakdown, but the ball does pop out on the side of the Kiwis. 6 minutes remaining in the second half of semi-final rugby. New Zealand moving it right across the field out to Brady Rush. Gives it to Frank Vainuku. That looked like a full pass into the hands of Rob Rush, and it has been called by the referee. Fiji now with an attacking opportunity and a little bit of push and shove there too. It's the biggest player on the field for New Zealand versus the smallest player on the field for Fiji. Normally the smallest ones are the feistiest, and that is what we're seeing from Tario Vailawa there. He's been told to go over to the referee. Rob Rush is the same as well. I mentioned about the passion of these two sides playing each other. Oh, big slap there from, I think it was his brother. Rob Rush just gave him a little bit of a slap and said, go over and see the referee. Okay, referee saying, we've been playing well, boys. No need to start fighting now. 5.5 minutes remaining, but the passion is up there at the moment for these two sides. Yeah, it was Te Reo Vailawa. He was trying to take down Rob Rush, which was always going to be tricky to do. And Rob Rush did not like it too much. Siva Mothera-Thangi, he was trying not to laugh while breaking them up. No fighting, boys, says Yasmin and brotherly love. Says, was a good day. And now scrum feed for the Fijians. 25 metres out from the New Zealand line. This one still could go either way for these two sides. Oh, that's an early push from Rob Rush in the scrum. He's letting his head go a little bit here. Now offloaded, Jeremiah Matana. Looks like he's got that temper going a little bit wild here. Rob Rush, now his brother has to make a tackle. Brady gets him round the bootlaces, goes off to the left-hand side. Nice step on the inside from Siva Mothera-Thangi. Now Jeremiah Matana goes to Te Reo Vailawa, and the bad news is this man has all the skills to be able to score if you are New Zealand's defence. Passes it long and out wide. Cutting back in, Vuiviwa Nadovalo gets around another one. He will score the try with the fend to the face of Frank Wainuku in the process, and Fiji take the lead now, and they are fired up about it. Making the score. I think that's a nice, easy conversion again for the Fijians. They're scoring in the perfect position on the field to take that pressure off their kicker. New Zealand or Fiji should stay in Pacific, says Rashid. As in, like, stay in Super Rugby Pacific. Let's go, Vitti, says Patient. And Johnny Blaze, give a respectful bro, says Zion. And also, we have got the Yahoo and Bulavanaka, says Ron. And there as well, but a great finish from Vuiviwa Nadovalo. He started day one of the Singapore Sevens competition with 2 tries. He started with 3 tries on day one. He might head on here and get himself 3 tries at the start of day 2 as well. He has got 18 tries on the Sevens series so far. We're only on about the 3rd or 4th leg. What's the score at the moment? The score is 21-14 in favour of the Fijians with just over 3 minutes remaining. Scott Gregory making his way off the bench for New Zealand now gets his first carry. Kulio Rokalesoa cutting it back across to Rob Rush. Kiwis have a long way to go if they want to get back into this contest, including a converted try would be at the bare minimum. Regan Ware tries to back his base on the outside, powers his way through the defence, passes off all. That's a massive crunching tackle on Akulia Rokalesoa, and he's put the ball down. Fiji will have the scrum, but that is a huge hit from this Fijian defence. Samoa netball, says Carver there. And I was like, let's go Fiji boxing, says Sock there. You shouldn't be allowed to tackle from behind. So like you're saying, if you've lost a foot race, you're not allowed to tackle the guy who gets past you? Or I assume you're just talking because of the fact that the guy, like, at the end of the day, he is on side in that scenario. But not being allowed to tackle a bloke from behind is one of the craziest rules, if they brought it in, that I think we've ever seen in a game of rugby. Maybe AB Sevens need more Fijian players and coaches like they need another AB's coach. Says Mr. Fiji Barty, it sounds like you're a broken record at the moment. Speaking of broken, it looks like Tamani's hand might not be too good here. And Te Reo Vailawa, he is the last player that they can afford to lose. He's not on side, he is though, because at the start of the play he was. And good commentary, says Rashid, thank you very much. And it's morning in South Africa, says Kyle, and it is just about to be time when South Africa go head-to-head with France. Just around the corner. Go Fiji, go, says Sareki there. They have got the feed now for Filippo Bukayaro. Going off to the right-hand side. George Balsi. Now big fend there, getting through the defence. Passes off to the right-hand side on the counter-attack. They can be extremely lethal, Fiji, but a good driving tackle made low from Scott Gregory. Looked like he may have lost control of that ball, George Balsi, on the ground, but it is play on, says the referee. Now 2.5 minutes remaining. Another step from, it was Tirawai Langi. Another replacement for Fiji, starting to empty the reinforcements off the bench. Penalty goes the way of the Fijians. No clear release from Rob Rush. Balsi now goes off to the right-hand side for the Fijians. New Zealand have to find a way of stopping Fiji from scoring now, or this game could be done and dusted. Joani Timber almost goes through. I think the Kiwis tackled each other in the process there. Regan Ware got chucked into touch. Now off to the left-hand side, Terawai Langi. Now Matana off to Josefa Talatholo, cutting back inwards. and thought about the offload option, now decides to use it. George Balsey still 25 metres out from the line. This game has been extremely fast-paced with hardly any time to breathe. Oh, that's a bit of a shot and a half from Akulia Rokalisoa sitting down. Filippo Bukayaro is just after he got rid of the ball. Now Fiji still on the attack. 25 metres out from the line, cutting back inwards. Two-man tackle from New Zealand. Ioane Timber, still 100 seconds remaining on the clock. That is more than enough time for another try to be scored for either of these sides. Now Balsey decides to show off his quick step and feet. Gets it on the outside. Into the hands of Taniwhanua Kula, who keeps on running. Tackled by Gregory. Looked for the offload. It was risky. And it's picked up by New Zealand, who now have an open area to run into. It will become a foot race, but I believe it looks like it's going to be lost by New Zealand around halfway. Kitione Vai bumps off one. Still trying to run for. Bumps off another. Bumps off a third. He's just bumping off absolutely everyone at the moment for the Kiwis, but the ball's still in the field of play. Oh no, mistake by Regan Ware on the near side of the field. He was playing halfback and he had his foot in touch when he played the ball. The touch judge watching it extremely closely. You could see him watching that foot like a hawk. And in the end, it means that it's going to be Fiji's lineup bumps off the ref. He was the only man who he didn't bump off throughout that phase play. And come on Fiji. There's Mr. Fiji there. And now 1 minute remaining. Tackle right next to the sideline on the near side of the field. And it looks like he's completely exhausted at the moment for New Zealand. Still yet to get back to his feet for Kitione Vai. Oh, in fact, penalty for New Zealand here. Quick tap for New Zealand. How'd that come about? He was in touch. So I assume something else has happened before that maybe they already had a penalty advantage ball, but I'm a bit confused at how New Zealand's ended up with the possession here. But a kick attempted in behind. That's a risky play. Almost ends up sitting up for Lasanga, who picks that ball up, trying to break his way through a couple metres short. Tries the offload. He's thrown it. He's thrown it to himself. He's scored the try. I think that's offside. Or not offside, sorry, but he's played it on the ground. Okay, George Balsey yelling at the referee. Lasanga, what has happened is he's been tackled. He's gone for an offload while lying on his back. The offload has then gone straight up in the air, come back down into his hands. He stood up and scored the try. I believe that is accidental offside. Or plays the ball from the ground. So this should be a penalty in favour of Fiji rather than a try for New Zealand. Right, the time is off. The referee calling everyone over. This is going to be a massive call. It's well within the right decision though. Lasanga ended up playing it from the ground. And we're about to find out exactly what happened. So we see it there from Lasanga. Yeah, you've got to retain your feet before you get that ball back. So it is going to be the penalty for Fiji. But now, getting ready to kick this one towards the sideline, I would assume, for Fiji. They are only 5 metres out from their line. Now sitting 5 out though. So they'll want as many metres as they physically can. Here go Fiji go, says user. He couldn't. He had a Fijian player on top of him, says Kiwi Rob, but that's because he got tackled. It all happened so quickly, but you still aren't allowed to play that ball from the ground. Like what should have happened, well, of course, what should have happened is he should have just offloaded it up to his teammate rather than himself. He makes Samoa look worse than it already is. Says Patent. And toss a Fiji tosso. Says user there. Now ready to throw it. Filippo Bukayaro. 15 seconds remaining. Now off to the right. Kick downfield. This is a risky tactic from Fiji. This seems like something that is completely different from the rest of the tactics we've seen throughout this game. New Zealand now have got this ball back. That is the full-time siren, but the Kiwis are in position. If they score and convert, it's going to make it go to golden point. Now trying to break his way through. Scott Gregory, there's a knock-on the ground from New Zealand. And that will be the end of this game. Fiji victorious, and they will make their way through to the final to go head-to-head with the winner of South Africa versus France. And that game is happening right now, ladies and gentlemen. So be sure to pop on over to that next one. We are going to be covering South Africa versus France to see who will be playing up against the Fijians in the final. New Zealand, they are through to the bronze final. And nonetheless, thank you all very much for tuning in. I will see you all in a very short moment.